everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Collector Detector, the only place that shows you the best place to find video game deals on the internet. Today we will be looking at Donkey Kong 64, the dearly beloved action platformer released in 1999 for the famous system. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it and see how much this game is. Oh my gosh, this game is $500. Video games can get crazy expensive. It is a product, and just like every other product in the world, it's susceptible to supply and demand. It's an endless cycle. A game does really well, everyone goes out to buy it, but when that game is no longer available, prices start to go up. Now, if you're foolish enough to buy this game at $120 when it's still $60 on store shelves, well, I'm sorry, but that's on you. But what if there was never a supply in the first place? Some games get recalled the second they're released, and some were hard to find even when they were brand new. But some games are so notoriously rare that you will never find them out in the wild. I mean, sure, you can find Clay Fighter in plenty of game stores, but Clay Fighter Sculptors Cut? That's gonna net you about $2,000. This is when a game goes from a rarity to a collector's item, when there was never a supply in the first place, but everyone still knows about them and wants them. A lot of these games were titles given out in exclusive events or were recalled and destroyed right after they hit store shelves, but these games are so limited in quantity and so rarely pop up that they almost don't exist. So after hours of research scouring the internet with a quick Google search that took about 15 seconds, I have compiled a list of the most expensive games to ever grace the video game market. Now, this isn't a definitive top 10 list of the most expensive games of all time, more of a general overview of a lot of these popular titles and why they're so expensive. Like Sculptors Cut, it's been about a solid minute, so I figured I can bring this up again. Clay Fighter was never the most popular series, but it does have a fairly large cult following. It's a parody of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but using stop motion technology. Sure, it might not be good, but I mean, just look at it. This is so cool. Clay Fighter 63 1/3 released on the Nintendo 64 in 1997, but just a year later, we got Clay Fighter Sculptors Cut, a special edition released exclusively at Blockbuster that was only available via rental. It had added story elements, menu adjustments, and 4 characters that weren't featured in the original game, making this the superior version. But by only being available via rental with a dwindling Blockbuster, these games did not last very long and were extremely limited. With Blockbuster being advised to throw these boxes away, this is probably one of the more popular items collectors look for. Luckily, you can find it for about $500 outside of the original packaging. But what about something more obscure? Only a few years later, we had the first entry in another beloved series by the name of Shantae, and how much is her original game worth? Yeah, you could buy the new 3DS game for like 50 bucks. Now this is the fault of just bad timing. See, Shantae released on the Game Boy Color in 2002, which was a full year after the Game Boy Advance was already out. Anytime a new IP comes out after a new console has been released, it almost always leads to poor sales. The game looks and feels really good despite that, but with only 25,000 units sold, and with most kids throwing out their Game Boy cases, it's no surprise to see this game as valuable as it is. We saw the same thing with Harvest Moon. This game came out for the SNES almost a full year after the Nintendo 64 in America, fetching another pretty penny of $2,500. Thankfully, both of these games have gone on to have thriving series, and maybe one day I'll play more than 5 minutes of these games. But a game I have played is Space Invaders. It is one of the most popular arcade games in history. Even if you don't know the name Space Invaders, if I shrunk this down and put it a mile away, you could still tell me what this game is. But have you ever heard of Pepsi Invaders? Pepsi Invaders is a slap in the face to Pepsi fans everywhere. It's essentially the original game, but instead of shooting spaceships, you're shooting Pepsi. I don't know who tried to design this game, but if you're trying to promote Coke but the name Pepsi is plastered all over this thing, can you guess which drink I'm more enticed to buy? Obviously, this game never hit store shelves. It was commissioned by the Coca-Cola Company for the Atari 2600 to be handed out at their 1983 convention as a means of advertisement. Only 125 copies were given out, and it's now become one of the rarest games on the Super Nintendo, and it's worth $3,500! Jesus Christ, my car doesn't even cost that much. Yes, most of the games in this time period kept getting more expensive as they were made for special events rather than as a retail exclusive. If a game wasn't in this category, they were usually a combination of either very scarcely made, far past its original console's lifespan, or were probably localized in specific areas of the world. And then you've got Tetris. Tetris is one of the most popular video games of all time. Now, you could argue that Mario is more iconic in the realm of video games, but Mario is in Tetris. You can even play Mario as Tetris. But over 30 years ago, this was a completely different story. Now, it's no secret that the original Tetris was prone to legal problems. See, Tetris was developed in Russia, which didn't have a licensing system at the time that, well, actually worked or even existed in the first place. So trying to license the game to be sold was fairly difficult. Now, I am no legal expert, so I put together a PowerPoint presentation to explain to you the state of the legal affairs of the licensing system in Soviet Russia. To be fair though, nobody really knows what happened to Tetris behind the scenes, at least that's what the internet says, but in short, there was a lot of problems publishing the original title. So in trying to find a publisher for the game's physical release, the Tetris team relied on the Sega Mega Drive, which made about 10 copies or so before the idea was initially put to a screeching halt. It's rumored that there were more than that but were destroyed, but again, there's so much conflicting information regarding what actually happened. Please see my list of cited sources. This game usually goes for about $16,000, which begs the question, can games get even more expensive than this? Oh yeah. Stadium events! I'm sure we've all seen Dance Dance Revolution machines in arcades before, but Stadium events introduced the Power Pad, a device similar but could be used for competing in a series of different events on your home console. This device was developed by Bandai in 1987 and was a huge leap forward in gaming. With peripherals like the Power Pad and the Duck Hunt gun, this made the NES feel more like a family entertainment system rather than just a mind-numbing game machine marketed towards young children. And Nintendo liked the Power Pad so much they just had to buy it, alongside the rights to Stadium Events, whose name would immediately be changed to World Class Track Meet. So how much is Stadium Events worth? You know, I did the math on this, and you could buy so many V-Bucks. This game made headlines in 2017 for being one of the most expensive video games ever sold. Only about 11 copies have been confirmed to exist, although about 25,000 were originally produced. Games like these are the ones that have always stirred up the urban legends, yard sale rumors we all know about where you stumble across this game at a flea market for pennies and end up selling it for thousands. Of course, this never happens. More or less, you end up getting 10 copies of Modern Warfare 2, but that raises the question, if this game most people have never heard of is selling for tens of thousands, what is the most expensive video game ever sold? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming. The Nintendo World Championships cartridge, the prize for winning the big event at Nintendo's 1990 World Championships. These cartridges contain 3 mini-games, Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris, with the goal being to score as many points in as little time as possible. Nintendo produced about 1,000 of these gray cartridges specifically for the event, with the highest one ever being recorded as 353. This was due to the gray cartridges being repurposed to be used in the following year's Nintendo Campus Challenge. But the gold cartridge is by far the most sought after piece of physical media out there. While the gray cartridges were mostly given out to the contestants, the first gold cartridge was given away directly to the winner, with the additional 25 gold cartridges given out by Nintendo Power Magazine in 1990 as a giveaway contest. The last time this game showed up in the wild was 2014. It sold on eBay for just over $100,000. With 25 cartridges, this makes the Nintendo World Championships one of the most valuable pieces of video game memorabilia in history. But if that's not enough, the following year we had the Nintendo Campus Challenge with just one single cartridge given to the winner. But the thing about this is, this thing will never be sold. The reason cartridges like these are so rare and sought after is because they're no doubt extremely rare, but just attainable enough to make it sought after and somewhat attainable, even if the chances are slim to none. And there you have it, the most expensive games ever sold on the market. You know, I think it's a combination of... Hello! There's another one. On April 2nd, 2021, a copy of the original Super Mario Bros. Sealed surfaced at a Texas auction house. The seller had apparently had the game bought as a Christmas gift in 1986, and it wasn't rediscovered until just earlier that year in his desk drawer. The game got graded a 9.6 or an A+, making it the finest known copy to have been professionally graded for auction. The game sold for $660,000. This just goes to show that if people find value in an object, they'll go the extra mile just to obtain it. Sure, a lot of these games are just going to sit on a shelf for the rest of their lives, but these games make for some of the most amazing stories in video game history. Personally, I'm not gonna spend a crazy amount of money on a game unless there's a story behind it, but that's what most of these crazy expensive objects are. They're conversation starters. Yeah, I have a copy of this game, but let me tell you why this game is so expensive. That's what collectors live for. Now, you could make the argument that these games should be played to truly be utilized for what they were originally intended to do, but these games are played to be enjoyed, and if just talking about these games gives you enjoyment, aren't the games still fulfilling its purpose? Absolutely not. I still want my copy of Donkey Kong 64, I just gotta find a way to fund my purchase. I got it. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Collector. I have my script in the f***ing background.